It's good to see everybody. Before I get started this morning, I just want to share a personal sadness over a Red Raider family, a loss of a Red Raider family Saturday. Debbie and I were heartbroken to hear the passing of Rod Blackburn, who was attending the game this Saturday with his family. There, he was sitting in section 120. Debbie shared with me and Matt one of the posts that his wife made, and her post said, "So Saturday when Jesus said, 'Come home,' he was sitting in section 120 at Jones AT&T Stadium with his family, including the oldest granddaughter, excited to watch his Red Raiders beat Kent State. Where would he rather be?" Later in that post, she said, "We'll be back in section 120 again soon because Rod would want it that way." So just want to say from my coaching staff and my family, we're praying for you guys. And thank you so much for your support. I can't imagine what you were going through when the game was going on. Hate to start off the press conference like that because I'm really excited. I thought the crowd once again was incredible. The energy was awesome. We need it again this week. We need to pack Jones AT&T. This is going to be a really good game. I can't tell you enough how much our players appreciate what's going on in the stands and getting behind this team. And we'll talk a little bit about Oregon State, but this is going to be a really good game. This is going to be a big test. They're a very physical team. Big quarterback, really good receiver, good running back, and it's going to be a good game. So we need everybody there. Our scout team players this week on defense was Gage Elder, and on offense was Holden Phillips. It was his birthday yesterday, so he got the scout team ball of the week. So that was really cool to get on his birthday. Proud of those guys because they take a lot of reps. With the changing college football. Last year I think we had 123 players, and now we have 109. And you think about that, that's just what's on the roster. It's not like we have 109 healthy bodies and everything like that. And so our scout team guys, we do a lot more good on good and trade periods, but we do have to get some scout team, and man, they take a lot of reps and give us a great look. So I appreciate those guys. Like I said, it's going to be a great game. They've got the head coach is a defensive guy. He preaches physicality. They've had some really crazy moments in games that I know they will fix this week, and I know we're going to get the best version of Oregon State, so we're going to have to be really good this week in everything that we do and make sure we're cleaning up our issues, but just coming out there and playing and attacking this game. So with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Coach, after reviewing the game film, what have you learned about your team so far, and which players on both sides of the ball have made impact beyond the stat stick sheet?
Yeah, one thing that we talked about yesterday, and we talked with in our staff meeting after the film was graded and talked to the team, the thing that we've got to clean up, I think we're 91st in the country in penalties. And so part of that, we are so much better in pre-snap penalties. Where our penalties are coming, I think we've had 4 of those penalties, on special teams after big returns. So we have to do a much better job of cutting those down. Talked about it. We're going to, really drill it this week because a lot of it is just not knowing where the ball is or understanding, that guy can't make the tackle anyway. He's not a part of a chance for them to make the tackle, and so it really doesn't affect the play until it affects the play and holding. Guys that I think that really stepped up. I mean, I've been proud of all the running backs. That's anytime you're replacing the all-time leading rusher and you've had a group in there that has played the way they've played. I've been proud of them. I think Reggie Virgil's the guy that we thought he was. Proud of all 3 quarterbacks. And then on defense, the top defensive front 7, when they're in the game, they're really affecting the game, and so we got to continue doing that.
What do you believe are the 3 reasons why you believe in this team so much this year?
I think the biggest is such a healthy locker room, man. These guys really care about each other. They're close. We had a good number, and it's such a unique group. But it's dove season, and nothing better than dove season in West Texas. And we had like 5 or 6 guys. Howard Sampson. I mean, I don't know if that was y'all thought that he was dove hunter or a hunter, but he is. And then you got Tanner Allen and Cam Dickey, and I think they limited out on Thursday, and so one, we have such a great locker room, and two, I think we've hit home runs with our 2 coordinators. Man, I'm proud of those guys. They do such a good job in game of communication, and then CJ says it all the time. The Jimmies and the Joes. I mean, when you have better football players, all of a sudden you're a better coach, and that's nothing against anybody in the history of 100 years of Texas Tech football players, but the better roster you have, the better chance you have to be a better team.
Go over here to Ty. Coach, you kind of touched on it in the first question, but what are the specific procedures this week you guys are going to be going through to prevent those kickoff penalties?
So our special team, it's one thing with our guys, special team wise, that we're a big drill-oriented group. That's why I think we could play so many guys on special teams, because it's not as much schematics overall. It is, but it's more the drills that go into the scheme. And so, it's happened on kickoff. It's happened on the returns, on kickoff return and punt return. So the drills that can help us with that, like there was a call in the game, and I actually thought it was on one guy, and it ended up being on somebody else. But there was a call in the game that I thought it was textbook. So anytime that we're losing a guy and the returner's coming at us, instead of grabbing on, we always say, stick your hands up and worship the returner. Like, you're doing this. I thought it was perfectly executed, and they said that he turned him. And so, just drilling those things that are happening. That's what, it's happened. It happened once more on the returner. We had it blocked where he should have gone inside. He went outside. And so our returners have to stay on path. That's been a big emphasis for Kenny, on the path that they need to run. And then us just drilling those drills more and more and more, and not panicking. A lot of it is when you lose your block, you kind of panic. It's kind of like whenever you see stuff, holding calls on the perimeter, you kind of panic. And so, hey, that's where the ball's going. Just either not necessarily let him go, because I want to engage him, and I just want to run him past and let skill guy break off of that block versus trying to restrict him.
And then for a guy like CJ Baskerville who's still in the area, how much is he actually with you guys in the facility, and what's your relationship been like with him?
With CJ, he's come back, but he's really, he's a landman now, so he's working, in the Midland area and all around there. But it was really cool, that Raider walk, whenever it was a cool picture. I saw him and Drew Holcutt were both, Drew's working in Dallas and CJ's working in Midland. It's good to see both of those guys. It's great to have those guys. Caleb Rogers, Eric Gerald is our head of video, and Caleb Rogers texted him the other day and said, hey, can I get my Catapult XO's login re-established so I can watch game film? And so it was really cool, to have guys like that, he's in the NFL and he wants to be able to watch his Red Raiders whenever he misses them on TV.
And then will there any internal discipline actions towards Amir Boyd affect his availability for Saturday?
You said it. It's internal discipline actions, and we'll handle it, like we have any time in the past. We've had a couple before, not many, but we'll handle it inside.
Coach, what problems does Oregon State pose?
Well, the quarterback was a really highly recruited guy. He was at Texas. He's won games in the Big 12. He had a great year last year at Duke. He's big. He's 6'5", 235 pounds. He's got a huge arm. He can make all the throws. We're going to have to get him off his mark. That's going to be a big part of moving him. So we got to pressure him. They got a really good running back. It's very impressive. They have a receiver Walker, number 7, that is a big target for them. I think he caught like 9 balls in their first game against Cal. And then defensively, they've got an edge guy, 6'5". He's number 25, Taylor. He's 6'5", 265 pounds that can really pressure the quarterback. Big safety, number 17. I mean, they're going to be a big physical team, that is going to – I think they'll challenge us up front offensively to see how much we've grown. And then they'll definitely challenge us defensively. I think the one thing about Malik, he can make all the throws, and I can just imagine how Coach feels right now, because their starting deep snapper got hurt, and they went through 2 deep snappers. I think they had a bad snap on a punt, maybe a couple. They had 2 bad snaps on extra point and field goal, and if those don't happen, if they're starting D snapper, they win last week against Fresno State. So, a lot of those things are really frustrating and something that you really can't overcome.
With an upgrade in competition this week, what do you really need to see to feel good about this early morning kickoff against Utah the following week?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is where there's going to be some similarities between Utah and Oregon State is just how big and how physical they are. You're talking about, they got an inside linebacker that, he looks like Ben Roberts. He's 6'3", like 236. I mean, when you're talking about teams that were Pac-12 and now one's staying in the Pac-12, one's in the Big 12, and you're coming from out west, you are talking about a bigger, more physical team. Also, you've got 2 teams that their head coaches are defensive coaches, and so not saying that you don't have very physical teams with offensive head coaches, but usually defensive head coaches, there's a little bit of different sense of urgency of playing really good defense, and that turns into a more physical game. So I think the biggest thing is, can we match their effort, not get outplayed effort-wise, that we're going to be the team that plays the hardest, and then can we execute like we have? It's going to be – I'm really excited. I mean, why I'm excited is we've done exactly what we're supposed to do the first 2 weeks. If you look at it on paper and you wrote a book of like, hey, how does the season start? We're supposed to score 60 points, if we're playing at the level that we're supposed to play at. Now you've got a team coming in here. I probably thought they would, be 2-0 based on who they were playing. I think Cal's probably a little bit better than what everybody thinks. And then they had a bunch of turnovers last week, but they're still a really good football team, and they're going to challenge us.
Coach, kind of building off that a little bit, Coach Bray talked about it too after their loss. They've kind of outgained all their opponents within the 20s and gotten their offense going in both games. It's really just been those critical mistakes for them. So how is it preparing for a team like this that has been able to execute until they get into scoring position and being able to kind of adjust and know, hey, they haven't hit their stride yet and they've had some success?
Yeah, you definitely, whenever you go through, like tomorrow, we introduce the team. Today our guys are off and they handle all their academics. They'll come in and, watch film on their own and everything like that. And they've got optional lifts going on all day. Tomorrow we'll introduce them. I'm the one that introduces the team, and Blake, one of our creative guys who does a great job, he's already doing slides for me. And, whenever you see a quarterback that's one of the highest recruited quarterbacks coming out of high school and he's 6'5", 235 pounds, seeing what number 7's done, seeing what 0's done, I mean, it's easy to understand, that we'll be ready for a team that has a lot of talent and can play at a really high level. The biggest thing with us, we said it after the game, I said it yesterday when we left, at the end of the day, it's still all about us. I mean, are we going to go out and execute our offense, defense, special teams? Are we going to do what we're supposed to do? It's going to be really interesting because they play a lot of press, whether it's zone or man. Hey, Reggie and CD, you guys have got to go win. Micah, you've got to go win. When you're out there, we're going to have some opportunities for big plays if you go win, and so stuff like that, we just got to do what we're supposed to do.
Coach, how close are we with Marcus Ramon Edwards?
Man, I'm hoping this week. I mean, he's practicing. The thing that he's not doing is we're not taking to the ground everything, and so the tough thing with him, not to get in a lot of injuries and all that stuff, but it's a non-football injury, and so it's always frustrating whenever it doesn't have anything to do with football that you're not getting to play.
You have 3 freshman wide receivers in Gentry, Stone, and Bryson.
Yeah.
How are you going about evaluating where they're at 2 games in, and they have 2 games left before that red shirt comes up? Where are those guys at, and how are you feeling those guys are going to be come conference time?
Well, I hope, not that the NCAA is watching my press conference, but I hope the NCAA decides to give us 5 for 5. It's the easiest rule that they could ever pass. It would eliminate a lot of lawsuits. There's a lawsuit going on right now with a large number of players that are trying to get 5 for 5, guys that played as freshmen. I think he's going to get drafted, but it could affect Reggie Virgil. Reggie Virgil played 79 snaps as a freshman, 79, and he lost a year. So he's very interested in if he needs to get a year back. So with us, we've always done it this way. If a player, no matter what age they are, can help us win, they're going to play. If they're not ready to help us win, then we're going to stick with the 4 games. And usually whenever you're talking about not helping to win, it's physical. It's more the physical part. Some mental, but more physical part. They're just not developed yet. I've told all those guys, Brock is one of them. I mean, Brock's playing a lot of special teams, and he's been in the mix of the 2s at linebacker. I've told him, I said, guys, you just need to understand, if you can help us win, you got to roll. You got to go, and we'll figure it out after that. I really do believe at some point, I wished it was tomorrow, they could drop a lot of lawsuits right there, and stop wasting time to where the only medical or the only red shirt is a medical red shirt, and give us 5 for 5 to play, and we can go from there. But if they can help us play, and they're all good with it. They understand if they're playing, then they're good.
Go to Don up front.
Joey, how did Hunter Zambrano and Vinny Scurry look in their time? How are they progressing, and how close is the right tackle now? Since I think you said back in the summer that when you went into the Utah game, right tackle would likely be an Orr.
Yeah, I feel really good. Vinny's getting back. I think he played. You're grading, played better game 1 than game 2, but he played good in game 2. But Will Jadis is playing at a really high level. I feel great about Will. So I think Vinny's a guy that can help us at both guards. Hunter, game 1 and 2, played really well. What we're really trying to do maybe a little bit with Hunter is, can he also play guard? If there's some pressure that he can put on anybody. But I do feel good about those with Jacob and Hunter. Jacob still is our number 1 guy, but I do think Hunter is pressing him to make sure that he feels the pressure of being a number 1 guy. I think Hunter, I don't know what series it was, but it was early in the game, and he rotated in at right tackle. I expect him to do the same thing. It won't be a deal, that as long as we're healthy, it won't be just 5 guys playing. I think he's the 6th guy that is playing at a high level to where he deserves to play in the game. I was, the one thing that was really impressive about Jacob too, there was a point that Howard got a little banged up. He was fine, but just, got a little banged up. We wanted to check him, and so Jacob went over to left tackle and Hunter was at right tackle. I thought Jacob Ponton played really well at left tackle in his reps whenever he went in there.
Go to Collier in the middle.
Oh, wow, Collier.
Oh, sorry, I'm typing over here.
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping, I promise, or texting anybody. I know A.J. McCarty obviously has been dealing with some stuff. How do you think he looked this past weekend against Kent State?
Kind of good, but dealing with some stuff. He's just trying to get back in shape, and he's dealt with a hamstring and hip, and he felt really good Sunday, which was good. Today we'll do a ton. We challenge those guys on your off days or any off period to where you're not in academics or you're not, in study hall, anything like that, how much you're going to attack your treatment. He's an old guy, so he knows he needs to be in the training room. I thought he's done well. You almost had a pick. I think some of this stuff, I think 2 games from now, he intercepts that ball on their sideline early in the game. So I think that's trending in the right direction. The good thing we have between BJ, Oliver, and Peyton Morgan, we feel good about that high safety. So Oliver has gotten some reps at star. But in this game we're about to play, and in our conference, so many people are so 11 personnel driven. The Big 12 has changed than what it was back in, the 90s and early 2000s that, John Curry can match up really well with a lot of tight ends, and he's playing at a really high level. So we feel great about that position. We really kind of, at the end of the day, you kind of luck out sometimes from the standpoint you don't want to lose anybody, but if somebody gets banged up and somebody else has to come in and take a rep, a guy like that, he's got a real high football IQ. He's got a huge motor. He had a huge hit in the game, that probably went unnoticed because it was more in the middle of the line. He was coming back in to the ball, but he's playing at a really high level.
And as much as you enjoy getting as many people playing as much as they have the previous 2 games, is there a sense that you need to play your starters longer, even if the game's in hand against Oregon State, so they're more ready for an entire game as opposed to a half heading into the Utah?
That's a really good question. Yeah, because even with, Lee Hunter's awesome at this. He gets the D-line together, and Skylar's awesome at this, A.J. Holmes. They'll run extra. They ran today. They ran extra yesterday. But doing all that extra stuff does not get you got to play to get into shape. I'm expecting that those guys are definitely going to play longer this weekend. It would not surprise me if they're not playing the entire game. A little bit different, in the D-line because we are, too deep that we feel good about rotating in. So you're still Lee Hunter played 17 snaps. More than likely you're going to looking at him playing 35 to 40 snaps when you're talking about a full game. The guys that you're really wanting to make sure that are ready and playing longer are your linebackers, your safeties, some of those receivers, although those guys are in such great shape. So it's really your linebackers and maybe some of your outside linebackers. I do think, too, in a very exciting way, is the more they play, the more plays are going to be made, there's definitely a difference whenever David Bailey, Romello Height, Skylar Gill-Howard, Lee Hunter, A.J. Holmes, those guys are out there. It makes a big difference.
Kind of piggybacking off caller's question, is there any position
Don't
group?
give him any credit.
Yeah, I got to give him a little bit of credit.
right.
You called him out. I gotta
Okay.
give him a little bit of love. But is there any position or specific player that you feel like you're going to play more after 2 games than you thought going into the season?
So one that I'm really proud of that could play more, I don't think necessarily does, but I feel really comfortable is Adam Hill. He's done some really good things. So those other, Cam and Jacoby, now they play more when you're in the games that we're going to be in and stuff like that. And honestly, I'm a little surprised of Bryson Jones and Leighton and Tristan. Great question, but how do you redshirt Tristan Gentry? Let's have clean blocks, and he's a legit returner in college football as a freshman. So, you're sitting there going, he's going to be like Jacoby and Cam, and then you just, again, hope that we get the 5 for 5 right. But I think some of those freshmen receivers and Adam Hill, they've surprised me that they're mentally and physically more ready than what I thought.
So you kind of went through like a little to-do list of things that you're wanting to see and tweak before in-conference play starts. So I'm just curious, is there any self-improvement things that you maybe have like written down that you want to adjust like within yourself before conference play starts?
You know, I think we're learning each other. Like Presley and I, we this morning had to go over to elementary school, and we gave a $1,000 check. You know, it's a college deal, the extra yard to a teacher, and we were talking like that. A lot of people, which y'all want, but a lot of people will miss the opportunity that we used and were very successful in the 2-minute drill. And so that when you start talking about that, you're bringing in Mack getting ready to run his 2-minute offense, Shiel giving us an opportunity to run our 2-minute offense, Sean Kinney runs our book. So this is the first time that he's done the book. The book is a lot more than just fourth down. It has to do, he and I are talking through the whole time management. Hey, we got to get ready to call a timeout here, everything like that. And so stuff like that was big to get done in a live game versus just in practice. So for me, just challenging myself more and more, like how we're going to be ready, because usually that's where, different coaches get a lot of criticism. It's, the management of the game, the head coach management of the game, and so really me making sure I'm on point and having great communication with the coordinators, and that's with Kenny and Mack and Shiel, and then with Sean in the box of what we're doing time management wise and game management wise.
All right, that'll do it for Coach. We'll have.
Thank y'all. It's going to be a great game Saturday. Can't wait to see everybody.
How's it going?
Hello.
What player on defense has made an impact beyond the stat sheet?
Got several guys. Skylar Gil Howard, I think I've mentioned him before, from a leadership, work ethic standpoint. Cole Wisniewski, Jacob Rodriguez, just to name a few. I think from a leadership, work ethic, doing things the right way, those guys are doing a great job.
How do you think this non-conference has prepared you for conference play?
I think it's given us a chance to see some different schemes that maybe we don't see as often in practice. And, that's a big deal. This is our first year, so being able to see as many formations, backfield sets, motions, going through that process of the preparation of preparing and doing a great job as a staff, covering all the different variables that we need to on each situation in the game, personnel, normal down, third down, red zone, those things. I think these first two teams have given us a variety of different things that we needed to be able to work on and game plan.
What are three things that give you confidence for your defense this year?
We've got really good players. I think our staff is doing a phenomenal job, and I think that everybody's all in.
Coach, what went into the decision to start Balfour and move Boyd to the other side?
Dante had a great camp, a really great camp. And unfortunately, in the second scrimmage, he got a high ankle sprain. And so, I think it was just a matter of time of getting him back in there and ready to go. And we expect him to be a guy that can play at a really high level for us.
How's Mo been responding to not being the starter on the depth chart?
I think he started week 1, and then last week he was out with an injury. So he's competing for playing time each week, and, the best guys are going to play. So, I can't wait to get him back there in practice.
Now that you've had Chetta get a few live snaps, what are you seeing and what do you still want to see from him?
Just continued maturation. getting more consistent every day at technique and fundamentals, and then just assignment. I think he's like a lot of young players at times, just as many reps as he can get from a standpoint of seeing schemes over and over again and really being able to hone in on what his assignment is and blocking out all the other white noise. Those are the things that I'd like to see him to continue to improve on.
If you could put together maybe like a little to-do list, a little checklist of things that you wanted to see improve, maybe within yourself, within this group before conference play starts, what would be on it?
That's a good question. I think just continuing to flesh out and develop what we want to do on some situational aspects of the game, third down. To a certain extent, I think it takes a little bit of time to get some live game reps and see really guys now as they get a chance to finish and attack at game speed. What do we need to become in certain situations to take the most advantage of what our guys do really well. So just continuing to evaluate that week to week and highlight the things that we're doing really well and that we can do really well.
Coach, you guys are taking on a quarterback that's a little bit bigger than some of them that you've gone up against so far this season. What are you doing to get the defensive line especially prepared for a guy that's 6'5", 230 pounds and can really break some tackles and get outside the pocket?
Well, we'll continue to, really do a great job of working pass rush lane integrity. Again, I think that's something that we've said coming out of the first couple of games that we've done a decent job on, that we can continue to work on. So that's something that we'll continue to harp on each and every week. From a tackling standpoint, that's something fundamentally that we're working every day, giving our guys the opportunity to really work using their arms, taking the extra step to finish the play, and then also just getting into position to tackle. So those are some of the things, playing with great leverage, great effort, swarming to the ball, and we're going to miss tackles at times, but if we swarm to the ball like we want to and like we need to, then the missed tackles a lot of times don't hurt you as much.
And then my second one is, obviously hasn't shown up quite yet on the field for them, but what are some of the things you've seen from their offense that has you preparing for something specific that they might show?
They are throwing the football extremely well. I think they're 18th in the country in passing offense right now at about 318 yards a game. I believe they're 16th in the country in explosive passes. So that's going to be a tremendous challenge, and they've got some really good receivers. Trent Walker, number 7, does a great job for them. The quarterback can push the ball down the field, and then I think their offensive coordinator does a great job with play design and trying to get different wrinkles and ways to kind of come back to some of the same concepts to be able to do that. So that'll be a big challenge for us this week.
Joe, and then David.
Coach, at different times on the game, we saw Braylon Rigsby and with the starters. What can you say about his progression for this season so far?
Braylon's done a great job through the spring and off season, I think, making a ton of improvement. He's a guy that played, obviously, last year and did some really good things for us. His consistency in his play on a play-in, play-out basis has improved. His dependability in terms of his assignment has been really solid. I've been very pleased with his progression. Coach IU does a great job developing all of the guys that play for him, and Braylon's a guy that has, I think, just continued to show the ability to play at a high level and sustain that in the run game and in the passing game.
Coach, there's a video that came out, you talking to your guys, got a lot of people fired up. Me, for one, I wanted to run through a brick wall for you. What goes into some of those speeches? Is that right off the top of the dome, or how do you come up with those things to talk to your players before a game starts?
When you do whatever you do for a living, I think to a certain extent it's easy to talk about, just like in a setting like this, because that's what I do every day. So, I love the game. I'm passionate. I think part of my background is I've been around some coaches in the past as a player and a coach that have been very great motivators and been able to learn from some of their styles and try to maybe adapt that into a little bit of what I do. But, sometimes I think you have certain messages that you want to get across in certain situations. And maybe I think through some of those, and then sometimes it's just kind of what comes out in a certain moment, and try to get the guys fired up for 4 quarters.
Collier and Don.
Coach, obviously you were pleased with at least one turnover this past weekend. Where are you, and I guess how many turnovers rather you would like to see on a game-by-game basis?
Yeah, well, we've got a take 3 mentality. That's what Coach McGuire preaches, and I'd like to take 3. I'd like to take 4, 5, 6, however many we can get. But at the end of the day, I think that's not necessarily the thing that we're just laser focused on. What we're really focused on is playing phenomenal defense from a fundamental standpoint, from an effort standpoint, and then letting the plays come to us. Obviously, we work drills, we work techniques to try to take the ball away intentionally. Jacob Rodriguez had a phenomenal play the other day in the game where we're kind of gang tackling a guy, and he comes back in and gives a right hook, and the ball jettisons out of there about 15 yards, and unfortunately we weren't able to come up with it. But that's a great example of some of the drill work that we do. He's got a great knack for that. He's as good as any player that I've been around. I've mentioned that before in terms of being able to intentionally get the ball out. So we work those things, but at the end of the day, if we're playing great defense, then we're in position to make plays in the run game and the passing game, then I think the takeaways will happen. And if we continue to harp on them from a drill standpoint and a fundamental standpoint, then we'll give ourselves a chance to get a fair share of them.
Obviously, A.J. Holmes very well, but he seemed to have had a couple of good games. As somebody that hasn't been spoken about as much leading into the season, what do you like about him, and how hard of it was a sell was it to get him to come with you?
I'm super fired up that AJ's on our team. He was a really good player when I got a chance to work with him last year, and he has elevated his game tremendously, in my opinion, in my estimation. I think that he's just excelled from a maturity standpoint, both in his preparation mentally and then also his physical preparation, technique, fundamentals. I've just been extremely proud of his progress that he's made. I think that his the coaches, Coach Fitch, Coach Tichy, that are working with him have been a big part of that. His own self-motivation has been a big part of that. I think his teammates, I've mentioned several times, we've got some guys that are really high-level players and great leaders that are on our defense at each level of the defense. So that just creates it's a catalyst for those guys to want to continue to work hard and improve. So I've just been super proud of him, and I'm glad he's on our team.
Coach, you mentioned Jacob a moment ago, and he has 7 tackles this year, which is not a huge number for him. And Cole Wisniewski and Bryce Pollock 1 tackle apiece. Is that nobody has a really big tackle total? Obviously, a lot of guys haven't played a whole lot of snaps, but is that also simply a reflection on your defensive front is doing such a good job that the ball's simply not getting to the second and third level?
That could definitely be part of it. Like you mentioned, though, I mean, we played 2 games. The first game we played 8-minute quarters in the second half. Virtually every starter and a good many of the backups didn't even play in the second half in those 2 8-minute quarters. And then same thing, pretty much all of our first team guys were pulled after the half this past week. So 2 games worth is really the equivalent for a lot of those guys, one game in terms of a rep standpoint. And then, I think the better football team you have and the better defensive unit you have, I think that statistically a lot of times there's going to, in terms of individual statistics, I think those are going to start getting kind of spread around maybe a little bit more because you got a lot of guys that can do their job and make the play when it's their time to make the play. And I will say, that's one of the things that I harped on this past week with our guys is just make the plays that you're supposed to make. Don't overreach. It's 11 guys out there doing their job, and sometimes you making the play is making the play on the ball, making the interception, making the tackle, making the sack, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's just leveraging a block so that somebody else can fit the gap and make the play. Thanks. Y'all have a great day.
Coach, how do you balance all the weapons in your arsenal now? And do you feel it's getting harder and harder to get the ball to some of your wideouts?
Yeah, I mean that's a challenge trying to get all those guys touches. At the end of the day, there's only one football and a lot of weapons to get the ball to, which is a great problem to have. I'd much rather have that problem than not have any weapons. I think that'll start to balance itself out a little bit easier when the starters play a whole game. I think we'll kind of see the distribution of the ball and their numbers. I think will naturally kind of increase as they get more snaps and get more opportunities.
Who is showing you some better play beyond the stat sheet?
Yeah, I think one guy this week that had kind of maybe a misleading stat line is Cam Dickey. I mean, I think on two of the explosive touchdown passes he had really key blitz pickups, and we had the rep in week 1 where he was a little bit late to get to the pickup and got Barron hit, and I think he did he took that personal all week, and he was really elite in pass protection, and then he did a good job. Trying to find some yards in some of the short yardage situations that kind of maybe hurt his yards per carry average. But I thought he had a really good game, and maybe the stats didn't necessarily, show that.
What percentage of the offense have we seen so far?
A decent amount of it. I don't know the exact percentage. Every week there's little wrinkles that you throw in for the game plan, but I think you kind of through 2 weeks, I feel like you've seen, the identity of the offense. You've seen some of the tempo. You've seen us want to run the football, and you've seen us, be able to take shots down the field now. So, I think kind of what maybe the style of play is kind of what you can expect moving forward. But there'll be some wrinkles here and there thrown in every week.
And last one for me: what have you seen from Adam Hill that has helped push him up with the running backs?
Yeah, I think he's done a great job, and just circumstantially with the way the last 2 games have unfolded, he's got a lot of work, and I think he's done a great job with the opportunities that he's had. I mean, I think he's like second in the Big 12 right now in rushing, so he's doing a great job with the opportunities, and I think all 3 of those guys are playing at a really high level and running it well. So I've been impressed with that room.
Coach, at one point it seemed like there was a concerted effort to get the ball to Caleb Douglas. How do you feel like he's done so far, and what should fans expect from him the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think CD's done great. With the targets that we've had, I think he's made the most out of it. And I think as we move forward, I think you can kind of see. I feel really good about those 2 starting outside receivers that we have. Him on the right and Reggie on the left. I mean, I think those are 2 really dynamic playmakers that fit our system really well. So I think both of those guys will have a huge role moving forward.
So if you could put together maybe like a hypothetical to-do list, a checklist of things that you're wanting to maybe like cross off with your guys or maybe with you before in-conference play starts, what would be on it?
I think the biggest thing we talked about was we just need to keep straining harder in practice to play cleaner football. I think a lot of the issues that we've had so far, the times maybe where we've stalled out, a lot of it is just self-inflicted, fundamental issues that we can clean up, which is a good feeling because, we know at the end of the day we can clean those things up. It's not a glaring scheme issue or a personnel issue. It's things that are very coachable and correctable. And so, that's what we'll work on this week, attacking that, and hopefully, that shows up on Saturday as we get into conference play after this week.
Coach, competition obviously is ramping up a little bit. Just what have you seen so far from Oregon State's defense, and what do you guys expect from them?
Yeah, I think they're a very aggressive defense. I think they fly around, and they do what they do at a really high level. Coach Brady's been there for a while now, and so that defense that they're running has been in place for 5-6 years now. And so those guys know that defense like the back of their hand. They play it well. They know the plays that people are going to try to attack them with, and are kind of ready for that. So for us, it's just going to be about going out and executing at a high level, and they're very fundamentally sound on defense, and so just being able to match that level of play on the offensive side of the ball.
Fresno State had some success with the quarterback run game.
Yep.
Do you plan on running Barron, or do you have packages built for Will Hammond specifically?
Yeah, I think when you go back and watch that Fresno game, I think the E.J. Warner kid had some good rushing yards. A lot of it was not necessarily designed quarterback run. It was on like a scramble situation. So I think that could present itself, when Barron's in there. We'll see kind of how the game plan unfolds. We don't have it all done yet, but could be some quarterback run game in there. But we'll play to those guys' strengths for sure.
And then early in the offseason, you talked about you wanted to run a very balanced offense. You've had like a 59-41. You've had about, I think it's a 56-44. But do you feel like it's where you want it to be? Do you want it to be closer to that 50-50? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's hard to. I try not to get hung up too much on it being exactly 50-50. At the end of the day, we want to be able to take advantage of what the defense has given us, and I felt like we've done a decent job of that so far. I think as well, the way these two games have unfolded, our defense was playing at a really high level early in those games, and it allowed me to be very aggressive as an offensive play caller, and so getting out there early when we had Barron out there and letting him kind of let that thing rip, that was kind of the game plan going in this past week against Kent State with him kind of coming off the injury. We wanted him to play well early and kind of get his reps in early, and then hopefully go into halftime with the lead just like it happened and be able to be a little bit more conservative in the second half. So I think maybe a little bit of that is in play there as well.
What's been your assessment of the offense's execution in the red zone so far?
Yeah, I think probably from this past week, that was one thing that I thought we could definitely improve. We were 4 of 7 on red zone touchdowns, which one of them was the victory at the end of the game. So really 4 of 6 when you look at it. And I think on the two that we didn't score on, the third down conversion, there was a 3rd and 5, and it was really just kind of a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receiver that we've got to clean up. We can't have that in a critical down and distance. And then the other drive, we just shot ourselves in the foot. We had a penalty. We had 2 penalties on that drive and got into a 3rd and 28 situation where we're just trying to salvage a field goal. So but just like I said earlier, a lot of that to me is more self-inflicted, self-inflicted wounds and lack of execution and focus that we've got to do a better job coaching up to make sure that doesn't continue to happen.
Anything more? Got one more for Ty.
Did you have an opportunity to talk to Cam Ward after this Sunday, and did you watch much of the game? What was your assessment?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch much of the game. I saw the stat line, but no, I haven't got a chance to talk to him. We're pretty busy on on Sundays watching film and game planning for our own games.
We got one from Joe and now one from Jared.
Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
As far as tempo goes from the first 2 games, how do you feel the tempo's been alongside with the execution of the offense?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty solid. I think you've seen flashes of the tempo really being an advantage for us. And then in week 1, there were times also like the blitz pickup that we talked about with Cam, that was on a tempo play. So I think as a coordinator, having to have that balance, I felt like I maybe did a better job on Saturday of peeling back some of the tempo and kind of focusing on the execution piece of it, like we've talked about before. So there's a fine line, and we're kind of finding what our guys can handle, through these first 2 weeks. But I feel like when we've wanted to go fast, we've been able to really execute at a high level and be able to push the tempo pretty quick. I mean, you see a lot of instances where the defense is just getting lined up. The touchdown to Coy on the little double move, that was a great example of tempo. We had TC wide open on the sideline on another one, putting a quads formation in the boundary. So we've been able to take advantage of kind of some of the things that tempo presents for an offense. But also, finding that fine line between where is the execution, start to peel off and what can our guys handle. So we're getting there, and I feel like I've got a good grasp right now for this group.
I asked you about a month ago if we would ever see Lee Hunter in the backfield on a 4th and 1.
Yes.
Now that you've seen Skylar Gill-Howard in the open field, are we going to see Skylar in the backfield with Lee Hunter blocking for him?
Yeah, Skylar, he might have a better chance than Lee. It's actually funny, we were talking about it. We were in the game plan the last 2 weeks. We were talking about maybe putting in a package like that, and things you don't think about. Lee wears number 2 and Barron wears number 2. So we got to substitute in a new quarterback, and there's a lot of things going on with that. But we'll see what happens. You never know. I do love a big man touchdown.
Coach, the offense put up a lot of points the first 2 games, but there were some short yardage struggles on Saturday. Is there anything you saw in the in film or during the game that was a cause of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the drive down the goal line. They did a good job. It's one of those situations where maybe I was a little bit hard-headed as a play caller, but you get down there and it's 2nd and 1, and I feel like we should be able to impose our physicality and go get a yard. And so I kind of wanted to make a point with our guys and be able to do that. And we ended up being able to punch it in on 4th down. And then on on the fourth down that we got stopped on later when Adam was in the game. Just a little bit of a kind of a lack of execution on the right side of the offensive line, as well as the running back, and those are things that we've addressed in film and will continue to clean up. So not really too concerned about that. It's something that we need to get better at, but I think we'll address that and continue to improve in that area as we move forward.
All right, that'll do it for today. Thanks.
Thank you.